It's me again. Wow, that video I just did about half hour ago did not turn out. This is take 2. The date today is April 5th, 2022. And while we wait for the oilco spin out, I decided to put down the steps that we're on their sale. We're on step 1, audit. Once audit is finished, SEC says okay. Step 3 is spin out oilco. Step 4 is MMTLP goes bye-bye. Step 5 is you drill. Step 6 is the sale. You know, we might hear about step 4 after, 1, 2, 3. It could be like a few weeks and then boom, we're on step 4 all of a sudden. So as the spin out process of MMTLP goes into oilco and there's a sale, I will erase the different steps that we have here. In other news today, this pertains to metamaterials as well as MMTLP, as they're under basically the same parent executive, metamaterials. As many of you know, it can be very difficult to get stuff from investor relations from metamaterials. This person posts their frustrations at getting different and inconsistent answers with the PR representative, Mark Kamenowski, to which George apologizes and will look into it. So, again, I've called Mark quite a few times. Sometimes he's very good, and other times, especially at the beginning, it was a completely different story, different bedside manner. It can be very off-putting for some people. And this is interesting because in my conversations with him, I learned he lives in Saskatchewan. He's not in Nova Scotia or any one of the offices. He works remotely. Okay, that's fine. I work remotely for my job. Step 2, he's told me about the frustrations he's had about being the last one out of the loop. And to me, that signified an issue with management. But what I'm about to say to you sort of makes sense. It all puts a lot of stuff into context. Context is king. And another thing is, again, he's talked about like lack of definitive timelines and how he's frustrated with that. And basically, as soon as he gets the information, he publishes it. So he's largely not writing a lot of this PR stuff. As I pointed out in my last videos, the latest press release from metamaterials does seem akin to like a lawyer wrote it. It's very clinical. It talks about a lot of the risks. It uses a lot of legality terms. It seems like a lawyer wrote the last PR of Meta about the MMTLP. And I would like to cite Speed Racer, UPS, yes, I'll put him in here, off of Stock Twits, for sending me this stuff. So he was on a completely different rabbit hole and he stumbled onto this and he sent it to me. So Mark Kamenowski doesn't directly work for metamaterials. Meta PR is actually contracted out. It's a company called Integris. He's the vice president. And then this other guy, he's the president. Integris is headquartered also in Austin, Texas, like a lot of things, except it's a P.O. box. So, and a lot of these people work remote, so, there's not going to be any central office. It's a P.O. box. But it's an Austin thing. Here's the Austin skyline and their website. And there's Mark, who's one of the vice presidents. And it says he's coming over from metamaterials. I'm like, wait, Mark left metamaterials? No, he's still there. It's just not, he really wasn't like a W-2 employee who wasn't an in-house employee. He was a contractor. So how this works is Meta does not have an in-house PR system. They contract it out to Integris. And Integris releases the PR. And if you go on Integris' website, you can find all the PR from Meta, as well as other PR from other companies that Integris works with. So they're a PR agency for investor relations, for some companies, basically disruptive tech, which is really interesting. That, Mark Kamenowski is not really an in-house employee. He's a contractor. It makes me question why Meta doesn't have its own dedicated PR team, especially because the merger has wound up being much more complex than was initially led on to believe. It wound up being much more complex, taking a lot more time. This whole MMTLP situation, the preferred share, there's a lot of added difficulties to the mix, and the vast majority of callers are retail traders who are more or less being baptized by fire. And they're scared because, yeah, they're in a fire being baptized. Who wouldn't be scared? As a result, that's, I think, why Mark has such a disagreeable bedside manner at times, as a way to put it. And when you call him, and if you leave a message, he doesn't always call you back. At least for me, he has never called me back when I left a message. If I can get to him when he answers the phone, I can talk with him. But if I have any question, he won't call me back. A lot of people have hit and miss success with him. I think part of this is one, he works as a contracted out entity. He's not an actual employee of Meta. That also explains why he sort of is out of the loop and last to know stuff for our conversation, because he is a contractor. I think going forward, it would behoove Meta, but this is just my opinion. It doesn't really mean anything. It's not like it's going to do anything. But I think it would behoove Meta to actually hire somebody in-house. One, they can be a bit more in the loop and a bit more in the environment of disruptive technology to at least, convey to people. Now, there's a lot of NDAs and stuff. I understand. I'm aware of that. I know how that game is played. But at least if somebody's in-house, they could be like, oh yeah, things are buzzing here. Like from a first-person perspective, right? It'd be a lot more assurance, I think, to actually have an in-house PR. Maybe somebody who's a bit younger, or you can go with the older hip, like a grandparent, like go with Carol Kane. I was talking about Carol Kane in my last video. She's like your hip grandma now. If, my generation would be like, she'd be your hip aunt or mother, but, Carol Kane, great. Maybe she's your hip grandma. For a lot of the retail traders, there's a lot more retail traders. The last time we saw this amount of retail traders was 1920s. Believe it or not, was the 1920s. That was the same time where, there were so many more retail traders. And they call up a broker, and it was the same thing. Instead of online, it was brokerage. And then after the stock market crash, nobody wanted to be a retail trader, and it was like, ha, 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 we are big business. We are trading. We are big business. Or, maybe you're a shark of, big wig shark from the 80s, and you got a phone. How important can you be? You got yourself a cell phone. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. You must be some big hotshot Wall Street day trader. But yeah, we're in an age now where there hasn't been this many retail traders in the past 100 years in recent memory. As a result, a lot of the traders who are out there are more, stiff coat. And this also happened in the 20s. There's a lot more regular Joes, bird people trading, and, the current suit and ties did not really accept the bird suits, although it is a suit. I was told to wear a suit. It's now we're going to define what a suit is. It's like a legal agreement, the whole lawyer thing. I like to joke that lawyers make things so complex that it takes a lawyer to interpret it, and thus it keeps them gainfully employed. So again, just to let you know, a fun fact, Meta Investor Relations is not in-house. It's contracted out through Integris, to which Mark Kamenofsky is the vice president. We get that Meta is a science company. They're sciencey people. That also explains a lot of the management issues, because they're young, sciencey company. They're not really an established management type of people. Maybe they contracted it out because they thought it wasn't that big of an issue, or maybe they would only attract institutional investors. As a result, they only needed a contracted investor relation PR firm for everything. So it's really interesting. What was the thought process going in to contracting out the PR? As a result of what's happened because of the merger, because of all the retail people, call in investor relations all the time? Have they thought about moving in-house or not? Knowing these things, I think, would help a lot. Certainly with investor assurance. Okay, guys. I will see you soon. Goodbye.